Hi Matt, I'm Marlon, and I just had the opportunity to meet your flock of flamingos and their new habitat. I thought maybe we could start out and you could tell me what work you're engaged in here at the zoo.
Yeah, happy to, Marlon. So my name's Matt Herbert. I am our Regional Conservation Director for Latin America. And so a critical part of Denver Zoo's mission has to do with what happens outside our 80-plus acre campus. So we work in Africa and Asia and in Latin America to protect species and habitat in the wild. And so as regards our flamingos here, we focus on Chilean flamingos, one of the two species under our care here at Denver Zoo. And we work in a really important lake called Lake Junin in the central Andes of Peru. So we partner with a nonprofit and the Peruvian government, basically Peru's National Park Service, to undertake population counts of flamingos. So we're trying to help them establish whether the populations are stable, the habitat is healthy, so that that research can inform conservation actions to help conserve the flamingos and their habitat.
And these are conservation actions on the ground. Are they efforts that you guys help to coordinate as well, or is it spearheaded more by local communities when you guys find that the numbers are dipping? Or because I'm constantly amazed at the amount of work that you guys do that is not apparent always to people who just are visiting the zoo for the day, and the conservation element of what you guys are engaged in.
Yeah, absolutely. So in all the places that Denver Zoo works, we work at the invitation and the welcome of local communities and local governments. So we have cooperative working agreement with Peru's Protected Area Management Service. There are communities that live inside, it's permitted legally for them to live inside the reserve. And their interest is in protecting the water quality of the lake, having healthy populations of flamingos, and there are 2 threatened species of frogs that we're also working with the local community. So the local communities are involved, at least in the frog projects, in helping us monitor. So it's community-based and community-led conservation. And then we're hoping in the future to expand that to their participation in our flamingo monitoring work. But yeah, very heavily community focused.
How do these relationships usually get established? Do you do outreach, does Denver Zoo, or do the communities reach out knowing that the conservation program exists here? These issues seem to just be coming to the fore for the general public. So I'm interested in how you guys establish these relationships.
Yeah, and it sort of can kind of go both ways. Sometimes, as in the case of our work in Lake Chinchaycocha or Lake Junin, where we work with the Chilean flamingos, word had gotten around that Denver Zoo was working in another lake, famous Lake Titicaca, on the border of Peru and Bolivia on amphibian conservation. So we have a similar related frog species here. We'd love for your support here. And the same sort of a parallel connection happened from one protected area to the other. So we were invited to conduct a conservation planning strategy workshop, and then have sort of continued to expand that to flamingos. So
almost a word of mouth, kind of. How are the Chilean flamingos doing? Are you guys seeing that the populations are thriving, or are there challenges to the populations that you're discovering in your census details?
Yeah. So their conservation status is near threatened. So they're according to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature's Red List, so the go-to list of threatened and endangered species. So, they're doing okay, but there's always the danger that due to the threats they face, that their populations could be in decline. So one of the first things that we need to do to figure out if their populations are in decline are to conduct these surveys. And so one of the things that I'm proud of the work of Denver Zoo and our partners is that for about 5 years, there had been a hiatus in conducting the survey due to sort of resources on the Peruvian government's side and a nonprofit bird-oriented partner. And so through Denver Zoo's staff and resources and technical expertise, we were able to kind of restart that 5-year gap in monitoring. So right now the populations are, they fluctuate, but roughly around 5,000 or so flamingos in the lake. So roughly stable. But what we don't know, and what nobody in the scientific world knows, is seasonal fluctuations. Are they migrating? Are there some resident, like subpopulation that's resident, some that migrate? Are they nesting there? There hasn't been well-documented nesting. So there's a lot of sort of dimensions to establishing the health of the population that we need to do moving forward.
That was actually my next question, was how you do conduct the population study and count them. Is it through just on the ground observations and counting, or do you do drones, or?
So yeah, all of the above. So one of the exciting progressions has been, it's gone from like sort of foot surveys using binoculars on shore, which is a good start. And then with increased resources, motorboats out on the lake, so that combined with the shore surveys. And now we are moving on to drones. Our Peruvian contractors, Denver Zoo actually has 3 Peruvian contractor staff based in Peru, and two of whom focus on our conservation work at Lake Hunin. And so we're working with some conservation drone experts to establish whether drones are an effective survey method. And it's turning out that they are, and just using the visible spectrum of light with cameras and video provides really good images, but we're also looking at thermal imaging to detect the body heat coming off the flamingos for really, really accurate counts. So with this, applying the use of technology is going to make us more efficient and more accurate in providing those data about the populations to the Peruvian government.
Do you guys, in addition to providing population data, provide conservation recommendations to the local communities, or since you're still collecting data just on how they're doing, is that the bulk of the research?
So it is the bulk of the research, that research is sort of critically important from a foundational standpoint to then provide those data to inform the conservation actions that we should take. But we do work with local communities and schools, both here in Colorado and in the Junin and Pasco regions of Peru, to celebrate International Flamingo Day at the end of April every year, which we'll be doing again. And we embed anything related to frogs and flamingos at any of the local community events. There's always a Denver Zoo, and our partners have presence at those events, and incorporating flamingo conservation education into the local curriculum with one of our Peruvian partners is something we do as well.
Oh, it's wonderful. And the 5-year hiatus was, you had mentioned, finally addressed when resources freed up. Has that been impacted also by the resources here at the zoo, the ability to conduct more studies and people taking an interest in the conservation work that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so a lot of our funding comes from the Denver Zoo's general operating budget. So, every time guests visit Denver Zoo, that's helping animals like Chilean flamingos in the wild. Visiting the zoo, enrolling in our programs, there's lots of ways listed on the Denver Zoo's website, giving your time, talent, and treasure to support Denver Zoo's conservation efforts both here on campus and in the field is something that anybody can do to help animals like Chilean flamingos.
Such a simple act, buying a ticket and being able to enjoy a day at the zoo, is going to fund such important work that you guys are doing. Are there any other threats or challenges that people should be aware of, or ways that they can assist with conservation?
Just making wise and informed consumer choices. For example, a lot of the flamingo habitat outside of where we work in Peru, where we work in Peru is a little different, but is relying, the flamingos live in salt flats where there's lithium mining, and lithium used for batteries and cell phones, and so just making informed consumer purchases and using those electronic devices through their full lifespan, and just understanding that all the purchases we make are impacting natural resource use by people and impacting critical wildlife habitat.
This is advice that seems to work almost in the case of all conservation, is being a conscious consumer and being aware of how you're contributing to different industries. And I actually didn't even know about lithium batteries, but that's something that is a threat to the salt flats.
Yep.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm so appreciative of the work that you guys are doing, and excited to spread the word and get people to come and see this spectacular new habitat that you've created, and find out about the conservation that you guys are doing.
Well, we thank you for your interest and your support. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much.